Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You know I'm your host, Dr. Daniel, and what I want to talk to you about this week is simply some research about how your body works, some research about how your brain works, some research about why chiropractic care is so important. And if you've worked with me, then you know that I always tell people if your only goal is to get out of pain, then we're not a good fit for you. And the reason that is the case is because it is very easy for someone to go to their doctor, get a prescription for pain medication, or get a prescription for whatever their issue is, and their issue to be magically fixed by the medication, even though we know that medicine can't fix you. Your body only knows how to heal itself. I always tell people like this, is like if you have any symptoms, it doesn't matter, skin issues, digestive issues, headaches, pain, like literally the list goes on and on and on. Think of a symptom, and this is what usually happens is you go into the doctor prescribes you something to fix your symptoms, and then you go on your way. But that would be exactly like this. If there was a fire in my house and the smoke detector is going off, the smoke detector is the thing that's annoying, right? It's beeping in your ear, it's super loud, it's annoying me. That could be the headaches, that could be the pain, that could be the digestive issues or the skin issues, or whatever the case may be. Those symptoms are just like that smoke detector. So the smoke detector, if I went up and I was like, man, that's super annoying, let me just take the battery out of the smoke detector. That's the same thing that medication does for you for the most part, is that we're just masking a symptom. Like we're just getting rid of the annoying symptom without addressing what caused it in the first place. And what I want to share with you is that I truly believe, and what this research will state too, is that your body literally knows how to heal itself, and that unless your brain is functioning at 100%, and unless you're addressing your brain function, not just the neurotransmitters in your brain, if someone's prescribing like antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds or whatever the case may be, like you literally have to address your brain function. So the way that your brain is stimulated, not just the neurotransmitters involved. And so this gets down into the weeds, but the point of this is just to share some research with you, right? So here's what we know. Is number one, we know that 90% of nutrition and stimulation to your brain is generated through movement of the joints of the spine. So this was found by a guy named Roger Sperry in the 1980s. He won a Nobel Prize for finding this. He was a neurobiologist. And so what does this mean, right? When we say 90% of the nutrition generated and stimulation generated to your brain comes from movement of the joints of your spine. That means that movement of your spine is what feeds your brain information. Movement of your spine is what gives your brain a workout, okay? So what's important about this is that understanding that the more that your spine is moving, the better that your spine is moving, the more you're going to have higher brain function. 90% of stimulation and nutrition to the brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. You've heard me talk about this before. So the reason this is important, the reason that we adjust people inside of our office is not because they have a back problem. It's because there's a brain issue. There's a way that the brain is talking to the rest of the body that's miscommunicating. And if we just take the pain medication, if we just take the headache medication, if we just take the probiotics for our digestive issues, and we miss what's happening in our brain, we're literally missing 90% of the cause in the first place. And it happens from lack of movement of the joints of the spine. So the question becomes, well, like, why do we adjust the joints of the spine? Or like, well, how does movement and why the spine, right? And here's what we know. So Dr. Heidi Havoc found that adjusting the spine and moving the spine and restoring spinal function actually changes the way that the brain functions. Like scientifically validated through multiple experiments is that moving and adjusting the joints of the spine changes the way that your brain actually functions. So this is crucial, right? And understanding that the only reason we adjust joints of the spine is because when we adjust those joints of the spine, we can actually change the way that your brain functions. If we change the way that your brain functions, we can change the internal environment in your body so your body can express itself at 100%. This is that God-given potential that I'm talking about. This is why I always tell people that, no, I'm not the best doctor. I can't fix you. Your body can only fix itself. But unless the joints of your spine are moving properly, then you can't fix yourself. Because if joints of the spine aren't moving well, then the brain functions less than. And there's a bunch of research to support that. So then we go on, and I'm just going in order. Just some cool quotes that I found, right? So these two researchers, Evans and Schomburg, so what they found is they found that chronically elevated physiological stress is plausible for how poverty, I'll use poverty and stress interchangeably there, but they use the word poverty, could get into the brain and eventually interfere with achievement. So again, chiropractic care is not about pain, it is about achievement. And they're using the word poverty and stress interchangeably here. So the important piece to know is that if you're more stressed out as a kid, one of the things that we know is that when kids are more stressed out, they're more likely to make less money, they're more likely to have higher incidence of disease, they're more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs, they're more likely to get divorced. All these things that would be indicators of quality of life go down when a kid is more stressed out during childhood. And so this again is the reason that when we adjust the spine, we are turning off physiological stress. And so understanding this idea that like this is the research, this is what the research says, right? So 90% of nutrition stimulation to the brain comes from movement of the joints of the spine. We know that if we move joints of the spine, it literally changes the way that the brain functions, specifically the prefrontal cortex. And we know that higher stress levels lead to poverty and interfere with achievement. What we are talking about in our office, what I care about, what I am so passionate about is achievement. People achieving more in their lives. People being the 100% version of themselves that God designed each and every single one of us to be. I can never provide you with that. The chiropractic adjustment can provide you with that because it wakes up your own brain and it taps into your unlimited potential. We go on, again, another quote by Dr. Heidi Havoc in a different study. She states that dysfunction in the spine, including the neck, disrupts the brain's ability to sense what is going on accurately in the rest of the body. So if we have improperly moving joints of the spine in the neck, that changes our brain's ability to know what is happening in the rest of our body. So we talk about vertigo, we talk about headaches, we talk about balance issues, we talk about ADD, ADHD, autism, anxiety, depression. When the joints of the spine are not moving well, the brain doesn't know exactly what's going on in the rest of the body as well. And again, like if we're just putting the Band-Aid or taking the battery out of the smoke detector, like it's the same approach, right? You got to address the brain in order to address the cause. You got to address the brain in order to address the cause. Next, this is Dr. Bill Yates. He says, proper posture, alignment, and nervous system function are directly related to balance, eye movements, and control over your breathing. All things that matter for most people in life. Balance, eye movements, control over your breathing. Heidi Havoc also states, put very simply, your brain can learn to function poorly and sense pain just the way it can learn to ride a bike or play piano. So this is super important, is that your brain can be trained into a pain response. Just like you can learn to read or write or do any of those things, your brain can learn how to be in pain. So again, pain is not a back problem. Pain is not a shoulder or a knee problem. Pain is a brain problem. And we go even further. One of my mentors, Dr. Michael Hall, has always said this. I'm sure there are other people that have said it as well, but he always used to say, all orthopedic conditions are preceded by neurological dysfunction. Meaning that if someone shows up with a knee issue in my office, unless they just had blunt force trauma to their knee, which most people do not, when someone shows up with a knee issue in our office, there was neurological dysfunction that was happening before the knee issue ever arose. There was neurological dysfunction before the pain ever arose. And guess what? There's one place that you can test for it. It's in your brain-based chiropractor's office. And this is why we do what we do, is because we can prevent a bunch of things. Remember what I said before. The reason that we provide care is to turn off stress. When we adjust the spine, we turn off stress in the body. When we turn off stress in the body, we increase achievement. Again, this is based on the research. We increase achievement when we turn off stress. So crucial in understanding that everything that we do is designed to allow people to function at 100%. The function of the nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all the other cells. So if you have a poorly functioning nervous system, then the coordination of all your other cells in your entire body are going to be less than. And everything in your body should be working together at 100%. If it doesn't, disease arises. If it doesn't, digestive issue arises. If it doesn't, pain arises. If it doesn't, foot fungus arises. Like literally, when your body is coordinated and working at 100% together, when we wake up the brain and the nervous system is functioning well, like the only possible option is that disease has to go away. Symptoms have to go away when you're functioning at 100%. That's how it goes. This is why I'm so passionate about this. Is like, like, it doesn't mean that there's miracles where everybody's going to be cured of stage 4 cancer just because they got under chiropractic care. But what it means is that neurologically speaking, I know that my brain controls every single other thing that happens in my body. Why would I not want it to function at 100%? We get it to function at 100%. We get our brain to function at 100% through chiropractic adjustments, specifically brain-based chiropractic adjustments. Johns Hopkins said this in a symposium a while back. They said that the typical American goes through more physical, chemical, and emotional stress in 30 days than our grandparents did in an entire lifetime. So if we go back to the quote of chronically elevated physiological stress levels, chronic stress leads to lack of achievement. The typical American has more stress than their grandparents did in an entire lifetime. So what does this mean? This means that all of us, me, you listening right now, you probably have chronically elevated stress from your cell phone, from EMFs, from bad food, from pollution in the air, from the thoughts that you think, from the news that you read or listen to or watch, from the music that you listen to or watch. And like, unless you are doing things to address your stress, like get joints of your spine adjusted, then you are decreasing your ability to achieve. And this is the same for you as an adult as it is for a kid. Again, this is why we take care of people in our office. It's about achievement. Yes, we can get people out of pain. Yes, we can help people with symptoms, but it's about them being the 100% version of themselves. Movement, touch, human connection, and connection to nature ensure normal development of posture, bilateral coordination, optimal arousal, and self-regulation. Again, movement is key in all of this. This is why we move the joints of the spine. This is why we do the vibrations to the joints of the spine that we do in our office, is because it is 100% vital to you being able to have self-regulation, normal sense of development, normal sense of posture. And then lastly, this one's so interesting to me. So neck joint dysfunction impairs cognitive processing. It impairs our ability. Cognitive processing means our ability to think. The impairment of cognitive processing is unlikely due to the presence of pain. This is why when people ask me all the time, they're like, Dr. D, why do you take care of kiddos? We take care of kiddos for one reason and one reason only, is because we know things like this right here, is that when we adjust a kid, we turn off physiological stress in their bodies. When we turn off physiological stress in their bodies, guess what happens? Their cognitive processing goes up. Their ability to achieve goes up. Their ability to be successful and to think for themselves and be free goes up. This is what we're about in our office. We're about freedom. We're about health. We're about happiness. We're about longevity. We're about vitalism. We're about value creation. We're about excellence. And like, all those things are only possible if you have a highly functioning brain and nervous system, my friends. And this is why I do what I do inside of my office. This is why I love the research like this. I know this might have been a little heady. I know it's me reading off a computer a little bit, but guess what? The reality is that people need to hear this and understand that the reason that you get adjusted, the reason that someone even considers coming into our office for the first place is like, yes, we can get you out of pain. We can get you back to playing golf. We can get you back surfing. We can get you back to those things. But more importantly than all that is your ability to think, your ability to connect to other people, your ability to make good decisions. This is how we create a world that is a better world, that is left better than what we found it. And this, my friends, is what I'm most passionate about, is providing chiropractic care to those who need it so that we can elevate the community that we live in, so that we can continue to change lives, so that we don't continue that on the trajectory that we are on. And guess what? This is what I know, is that the cause of nearly all disease comes from neurological dysfunction. Now, my friends, my question for you is this, is how do you know, or do you know, what the state of your nervous system? Like, is it just based on quote unquote how you feel? Or have you actually had it measured? I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you got some value out of this, and you know that I'll come at you again next week. Peace.